Hi, everybody. Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. Hope you're doing well. Back with a good friend, Mike Cernovich, a lawyer and the author of the most excellent and muscular Guerrilla Mindset, How to Control Your Thoughts and Emotions to Live Life on Your Terms. Please follow him on Twitter, twitter.com/Cernovich. That's Cernovich. Read Danger and Play, his blog, dangerandplay.com, and follow Mike on Periscope at periscope.tv/Cernovich. So, Mike, how's your day been?
Fictional. I believe it was, we talked about, in the last time we talked about Hillary's health, we both agreed that if you wrote a script based on reality, your professor would have handed it back to you and said, this is trash, this is too predictable.
So it's 9/11, and of course, the last thing that I really expected to be talking about on 9/11, I did a video on my sort of personal experience when 9/11 occurred 15 years ago. I really didn't expect to be talking about things like pneumonia and dehydration and like the worst lost your slipper Cinderella story on the planet, as she basically half pours herself into a waiting van/ambulance. So why don't you take, for people who've been a little bit out of the loop, let's go through what happened this morning.
Okay, so you can fact check me. Those of you listening at home, fact check everything I say. So about 6 weeks ago, I noticed that Hillary Clinton looked like she was having health problems. Paul Joseph Watson noticed the same thing. We started investigating. Of course, the mainstream media attacked us, wrote stories about us where they called me a rapist and everything, anything to discredit us. So we're dealing with 6 weeks of nothing but hate from everybody. Fast forward September 11th. I am sleeping in because I was up late last night relaxing, watching Narcos, doing whatever.
Oh, and also might I add, congratulations on 100,000 Twitter followers. You were up for that too, right?
Yeah, we just hit 100K today. So I'm sleeping, and Shauna goes, "Get up! Your phone's blowing up. Everybody's calling you. Hillary fainted." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes,
Am I still dreaming?
Yeah, exactly, right? I was like, what? She goes, no, you got to get up. And I look, and I have text messages from everybody, my DMs, emails. Mike, you won't believe it. So Hillary Clinton, on 9/11, the day when you're supposed to show strength, fainted, was grabbed by her Secret Service people, and as she's falling down, trips over her shoe, and her shoe falls off. So there's this pathetic picture now of Hillary's lone shoe just kind of over by the curb. You couldn't script it better than this.
And the story, of course, was first spinned that, she just left early for mysterious reasons, right? The usual obfuscations that occur with these kinds of things. She left early for a variety of reasons. Maybe she had some dry cleaning to pick up. They just went on crazy stuff. And then it was admitted that there was an issue. And the first issue, if I remember the timeline correctly, Mike, was something like this. She was hot.
Right. Overheated.
Overheated.
So she overheated
in a day which is, I've heard, reported from sort of 73 to 78 degrees, kind of breezy. It's September. It's New York. It's beautiful in the fall. It's great jogging weather. And the fact that she was overheated, it sounds like one of these, the excuses that starlets have when they've got a drug problem. They say, oh, she has exhaustion. She's going to a rehab center for exhaustion. So she overheated. And then that didn't seem to be too believable any more than the fact that she's got cough-induced pollen problems indoors where things are well filtered. So she's no longer overheated. Now apparently there's new stuff.
Yeah, so then they go, okay, it wasn't overheating. She had pneumonia on Friday, and she was so tough that she was just powering through the pneumonia. Well, meanwhile, she does a photo op hugging a kid while she supposedly has pneumonia. So
now, but that photo op. So she goes from the memorial service at 9/11. She gets into the van, and they take her. Now, she's a woman in her late 60s, and she has pneumonia. And pneumonia, of course, is dangerous for children and for old people. It's like the number one reason why people are admitted to hospital, and it's a big cause of fatality, and it can have significant health impacts. It can leave you with cognitive impairments and motor impairments and so on. And it's tough to treat, especially if it's viral. They don't have much to treat it. They've just got to let it run its course, and it's rough. So with all of that going on, does she decide to go to a hospital, which I think would be a reasonable place to go if you're in your late 60s or anytime you've got pneumonia and you collapse? or B, to her daughter's apartment, which, as far as I understand it, is nowhere near a hospital. She did, in fact, choose to go to B, her daughter's apartment. Help me understand how this isn't. I don't mean to laugh because, but how
No,
is this narrative not even like, how can anybody with an IQ bigger than their shoe size not laugh out loud at these
yeah,
ridiculous stories?
we're in like a Sherlock Holmes story where you have to look more at. Remember the story about the dog that didn't bark? And that's how Sherlock Holmes solved the mystery. Well, nobody on Hillary's staff was surprised. They just said, okay, we'll grab her, we'll take her to Chelsea's. Well, if she took her to Chelsea's, then that means there's probably x-ray machines or doctors there. Then there was an image showing that Hillary was actually traveling with her doctor, and Hillary had on these blue anti-epilepsy, anti-seizure glasses. So here's what is the most plausible explanation. And you know what? I would love for you to talk to the doctor who broke this story. So a doctor about a month back said, Mike, he hunted me down. He said, I think Hillary has Parkinson's. Here's why. And he went through X, Y, and Z. It was cogently reasoned. It was a very tightly reasoned case. And now people are saying, well, one of the leading causes of death from Parkinson is complications due to pneumonia. So she probably did have pneumonia, but it wasn't pulmonary pneumonia. It wasn't the kind of pneumonia that you would give to a kid. It was the kind of pneumonia that people get when they have Parkinson's. Now, consider the evidence. She was wearing those blue-lensed glasses, those anti-seizure glasses. She had been having coughing fits. She had been having trouble swallowing. Her throat had been messed up. So right now, all of the evidence points to Parkinson's disease, that she has Parkinson's.
Because the thought that I had, Mike, was if she does have some sort of infectious disease, what the heck is she doing at all? Like, she made it out to 17 different donor sites recently. Didn't quite make it to Louisiana. Didn't quite make it to other places she promised to go, but she did manage to make it to the big fundraising dinners. That's kind of like ground zero for the infection if she's infectious. Right.
That's why it makes the most sense is that she does have Parkinson's. And let's look at the evidence that you and I have talked about. And for those who are new here, Stefan and I, we talked about sort of Hillary's stools, where every time you look, Hillary either has a stool or she's being actually propped up and held up by Secret Service agents. Remember that picture of her on the chair being held up? So she has fatigue, she has loss of balance. There were those emails, of course, that WikiLeaks exposed where Huma was Hillary's handler, that she's often confused. She had been giving medications for memory loss. She had a concussion. So right now, it's looking 90% certain that she has Parkinson's. So one of two things must be true. If Hillary has pneumonia, then she tried to get a kid sick for a photo op, which is sociopathy beyond our comprehension, even what we know for Hillary.
Or sorry to interrupt, but just so people know, so that's when she came out of Chelsea's apartment for a photo op a couple of hours after she collapsed, and some kid came running up to her. No, Stalin's great-great-granddaughter, who knows, right? But some kid came running up to her with flowers. She knelt down, gave the kid a nice squishy hug and all of this. So you're talking about that incident, right?
Yeah, exactly. So either Hillary was infecting people with her pneumonia, or the pneumonia that she actually has is the type of pneumonia that people with Parkinson's get. And that is what my guess is.
And that's non-infectious, non-communicative, is that right?
Exactly, right.
Right. Okay, so this is beyond huge. To see the ramifications of this is like pressing your face up to the side of Jupiter and trying to see the whole planet. To me, this is absolutely huge. The idea that it's not a legitimate question to ask about Hillary's health is so far in the rear view, it's almost coming back around the front again. And this pivot by the media to say, oh, well, she was just hot. Oh, well, she was just dehydrated. Oh, actually, she's got pneumonia. And yet, of course, if it's pneumonia of the regular kind, then it's communicable and therefore dangerous, and then she shouldn't be hugging the kid and so on. This kind of pivoting is just beyond the grasp of anyone to understand. Like, at least 1984, it took them like 2 chapters to go from war with East Asia to war with Eurasia. Here we can see this blending and rewriting and flipping over and rejigging of history minute by minute. It's truly disorienting to anybody with half a foot in reality.
Yeah, a lot of people are, you and I, we've been around and we've seen it, but even in my lifetime, I've never seen a hoax like this, propaganda at this level. And maybe it was always this way, but because of social media, we can track everything minute by minute. It might have always been this bad, but we were never able to tell because there weren't people like you and me on social media, YouTube, Twitter and stuff, kind of analyzing what they say as they say. But yeah, what you say is exactly right. It went from Hillary is healthy, everything is off limits, to, oh, well, okay, I guess we can kind of talk about it now, but she had pneumonia. Okay, story's over. She had pneumonia, no big deal, nothing to see here. Let's all move along.
But pneumonia is a huge deal for somebody. I mean, it's a huge deal anyway. Because as somebody of her age, it's a huge deal. This is 4 to 6 to 8 weeks recovery time. This is significant amounts of meds. It can leave you with cognitive deficits and so on. How do you just get to say, oh, it's pneumonia, keep going? Like nothing's happening. It's only pneumonia. It's like, like when John McCain had some sort of melanoma, I think it was a decade before he was running, the reporters all demanding to see his medical records, and they were led into a room and they could not take any photos or notes, but they could scan through his like voluminous Encyclopedia Britannica of medical records and so on. I don't think that saying the word pneumonia makes this story go away, even if it's true, and even if that's all that's happening. When Friday they were saying there's nothing, like there's nothing to talk about. There's no issues.
Yeah, it's desperation on the mainstream media. So there's a very funny thing happened. There's a guy who blogs at Jeff Bezos' blog. Some people call that the Washington Post. And he had a column on September 6th that said Hillary's health is a conspiracy theory, is off limits. The next day he said, let's just stop talking about Hillary's health. Well, this same guy in 2008 had written about John McCain's health, and then in 2012 had written about Michelle Bachmann had a headache. Well, Michelle Bachmann had a headache. What does really that mean? Well, today he goes, well, all of those other people who drove this story are conspiracy theories, but as of right now, we can talk about Hillary's health. And I've just been laughing at him. Oh, you really think you get to decide what we talk about? We're not in that media world anymore.
Now, let's circle back to something that you periscoped about recently. And listen, people, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're watching this, get the app. And Mike, this is your element. I mean, this is where you are. I mean, you shine in just about everything that you do. But in this particular, you are the Rocky of the Periscope world. And you were talking about the fact that Hillary Clinton recently was referring to in this very, to me now, infamous basket of deplorables speech, where she basically said that at least half of the listeners, half of the fans of Donald Trump belonged to this basket of deplorables, with the usual social justice warrior rhyming couplet from hell of, racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, and so on. And she also talked about search engines. She talked about rankings in the web, number of hits, and you had a fantastic idea about what is driving this and why there seems to be this freak out occurring on the Dem side at the moment.
Exactly. So Hillary Clinton is 68. She is used to the idea that you can control a news cycle by controlling a couple gatekeepers. So people like me, people like you, I'm not going to be too egotistical, but I would say you and I are two of the smartest people talking about policy in the world today, okay? Or at least in the English-speaking world. I would say we are up there at the very least. We're certainly better than anybody at Vox or Jeff Bezos' blog or Carlos Slim's blog. We're still a tier above them. But if we wrote an article for those newspapers, they just wouldn't publish them. So Hillary's used to that old model of media where she can control what people say. Well, what happened is I got a source of mine told me that there was a data analytics company came in and they kind of had a meeting with her where she lost her mind. And they go, like, here's the analytics. So in Hillary's speech, she goes, Donald Trump has given voice to people who used to have 11,000 people read their websites, and now 11 million people read it. Now, we've never, because right when I heard that, because I get a lot of source information from people that I can't always confirm, and you always wonder who's on the up and up. But I go, you know what? That had to be legit because no presidential candidate is talking about web traffic. Like, why would Hillary be angry that a website is going from 11,000 views to 11 million? The answer is more like 110 million, but we'll just use her numbers. So she's realizing now that they don't control the media anymore. And it's something I've talked about in our prior podcast together is I'm officially, now I can say, I've been on TV. I've had media write about me. wrote about me. Da 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 da. I would rather come on your show than be on CNN. I'd rather be on your show one time than CNN 10 times. But I'm like new media, right? I understand the game, but people like Hillary didn't really understand it. So she's thinking, well, why are people talking about the health stuff? Even that guy, the Chris Colosio, whatever, the guy who writes The Fix, he's saying, well, now we can talk about it. And you're like, no, you can't talk about it. My Twitter did 6.5 million impressions today already. You know, our blogs, our podcasts, we're doing millions of views a month, tens of millions if you count everybody else up. You guys don't get to decide, okay, we can talk about it now. You've lost the power.
Well, we just cut a video this morning talking about Hillary's, and it's already, 140,000 views, and it's doing, it was at one point doing 27,000 views an hour. You know, I go on TV, I get maybe 8 or 10,000 views, at least on YouTube. I don't know what it is live, so that's why it's not tempting for me. You know, in live speeches, who cares? You know, TV, who cares? Radio, who cares? It's these conversations between, like-minded, intelligent people that really get the message across to people. And of course, as we rise, as we gain an influence, the mainstream media, like it's a zero-sum game. If they're watching us, they're not watching other stuff. So welcome, everyone. You'll really enjoy as we continue to sit around. But this, I was just having some lunch with some friends today, and we were talking just about what a mad election cycle this really is. I mean, the stakes are absolutely astonishing, because I really believe that out of this particular vote, November, only one party is going to be left standing pretty much permanently. Because if Trump gets in and changes the demographics of the country through immigration controls, through self-deportation or deportation, whatever, he is going to gut the vote for the Dems base. And if the mainstream media, which is right now setting fire to all of its credibility in pursuit of getting Hillary Clinton into the White House, they don't care what smoking craters of credibility are left in their wake. They'll just do the most obvious, ridiculous manipulations. So if Trump gets in, they will have no credibility left. The voting base of the Dems will be down. If more scandals emerge out of any cover-up from Hillary Clinton's health, then the Democrat Party is going to be gutted. And I just don't mean, well, they might have to sit it out for 8 years. I mean literally gutted. On the other hand, if Hillary gets in, what happens? Well, she's going to bring more vote for Dems immigration in. I have no doubt that they're going to try and crack down on the internet and crack down on the thorns on the side of that you and I and other people represent to them. And the demographics are going to change, and the mainstream media is going to try and resume its lock on communications, and the Republicans, who've lost the trust of most Republican voters now that they've had Donald Trump to compare the Republicans to, they're not going back to the way they were. So this is insane, just in that it is winner take all forever, I argue, in November. Oh,
and not only that, but right-wing media from a branding standpoint, you've even seen Mark Levinson and Hugh Hewitt, those Never Trump guys, are realizing that super PAC money has dried up. Their analytics are tanking. Once Trump wins, people are not going to want to hear conservative people bash Trump. Nobody on the right, they're going to say, okay, Trump won, we're tired of the National Review crying about Trump. We're tired of all these Never Trump people. So a year ago, I actually said, this is a war for the control of media. And I've always viewed it that way. That's why I work so hard every day. This is new control of right-wing media. This is new control of all of media. And what we're doing is, by exposing these hoaxes by the media, we're completely discrediting the media now. Where they can't control anything now. Hillary's health is a big story. Oh, now they're talking about it now, but it doesn't matter. People were already talking about it. I have people say my mom is 70, and she sure wishes you didn't cuss as much as you did, but she really, likes your Twitter feed. So I might even have to, I'll never go family friendly, but I might even have to, tone down the language a little bit, because as our audiences grow, then, we have to adapt to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of G. Willikers probably won't hurt you too much. The other stakes that are important as well, crucial from Hillary's standpoint, and much though I loathe the very essence of that woman for the destruction that she has wrought across the Middle East, for catastrophic decisions, for the entire history going back decades. Maybe I'm just too much of a softie. My tiny sliver part of me is like, what a terrible situation to be in. My feeling is, and I don't know if this has been confirmed, maybe you've had some insider information, but my feeling is, Mike, if if she doesn't make it to the White House, she's going to the big house. And that is a pretty, if your health is failing you and you're on this sort of baton death march to try and gain the White House, because what happens? Well, if Donald Trump decides to unleash the DOJ on her, on the Clinton Foundation, Bill, Hillary, Chelsea, a lot of their companions are going to face some pretty exciting times.
You know what I do if I'm Trump today? I post, in light of Hillary's failing health, should I give her a pardon when I'm president? That would light things up.
Well, I wonder if Obama's going to do that preemptively or proactively. I imagine he would before he hopefully relinquishes power in November. But what would that maneuver from Trump do you think, if he did that?
That would do a number of things. One is the media would have to cover it. Two, it would get people thinking about Trump as president. Three, it would get people thinking about Hillary as corrupt. Four, it would get people thinking about her health. See? And then it opens a dialogue with people. And a lot of times, as you know, at least the way I do Twitter is, a lot of times I'm just getting a conversation going. I'm not, so I would just say, like, well, what do you guys think? Should I give Hillary a pardon because of her failing health when I'm president? Well, there's so much layered within there. Like, well, because then people are like, well, when you're president, no, you it doesn't matter if people say yes or no. If people say, no, you shouldn't give her a pardon when you're president, well, they're thinking of you as president. If they say, well, yes, you should be merciful, they're thinking of you as president. And they're also thinking of her as old and unhealthy and corrupt and in need of a pardon. See, so boom, that tweet right there, headshot.
Yeah. Well, let's put on our little forward radar hats and see what we think is going to happen. Now, I said today, this morning, I said that the campaign was pretty much done. Now, I don't think that they're going to hang up their boots. I don't think she's going to cycle out. I think she's going to soldier on, so to speak. But I just, there are always going to be people who hang on to whatever, right, for their own emotional reasons. But I just think for anybody who's trying to look at this election cycle even remotely objectively, I just can't see how it can continue with any credibility.
Yeah, Hillary's people are power mad. My concern right now is that they will attempt an assassination on Trump, because that's the only way to win the election now. They were going to try to rig it by a couple percentage points. So if I'm Trump's people, I'm keeping an extra close watch on him. Security's got to be up, because, as you said, Scott Adams said too in his blog post today, her campaign is over. It's done. It's over with. And now we have to look at those so-called black swan events, those events that are so outside of the realm of probability that we don't expect them or whatever. So I would definitely be mindful and conscientious that I'm Trump's people.
Yeah, and now, of course, the other possibility, and we're just sort of blue skying here, but another possibility is groups who are in the country illegally, if facing a Trump presidency, might decide to pursue an option of civil unrest, which might provoke martial law, which might, provoke a suspension of elections. These are all potential scenarios, however probable we think they may or may not be. I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah, there's that. Look, here's what we know: the media is corrupt. The media has been trying to agitate people to take out Trump. The media incited riots in St. Louis, Ferguson. They've incited riots at Trump rallies with the people outside, of course, not the Trump people, but they've been agitating for people. So the media will definitely go on full-on freak out drumbeat mode. Something must be done about Trump. So you'll see, I predict you'll see, if not overt calls for Trump's assassination, you will see almost as close to that coming from people that you would consider to be part of the mainstream.
Right. And the hope there, of course, would probably be, even if it's unconscious, would be to just pump so much hate into the stratosphere that somebody with some broken antennae is going to pick up on it.
You have a mentally ill person, a John Hinckley kind of situation. I don't want to read omens or be, sound too, superstitious, but was it Ronald Reagan's attempted assassin recently released from jail? Or maybe that
a day or two ago, yeah.
Yeah, I read that. I didn't know if that was confirmed now or not, but that's kind of a weird omen. I wonder if there was, because of I used to really be dismissive of conspiracy theorists, which is ironic that people call me one of those now, but we've seen so many conspiracies that are actually true. We saw the DNC leaks. We saw the Deborah Wasserman stuff. We saw the primaries rigged against Bernie. We saw the news media covered up the Bernie people. We saw the media lie about the health. It makes you wonder if that's why John Hinckley was actually released, because the people in charge of that were like, well, maybe that'll send a hint out to people to get people talking about somebody who made an assassination attempt, right? Because then if you release John Hinckley, well, now that's news, and then you can say, oh, John Hinckley, he got famous by trying to kill Reagan. We're not saying kill Trump, of course, but now you're thinking about it. See?
Now, the other, I guess, possibility is that they're going to try and swap Hillary out with somebody else. Have you thought about any of the ramifications of that?
Yeah, I would have probably a little bit too late now, but my big concern with Trump beating Hillary too early was that Joe Biden would come in. And I think Joe Biden and Trump is an interesting race. Joe Biden, we like it or not, we live in a, what I like to have a beer with that person kind of presidency. I don't like that, you don't like it, but that's the reality. Joe Biden is the American, he's the Joe's Joe. Let's sit down and bullshit and goof off and hang out. Let's Joe Biden. So I've been concerned for the past, year that Joe Biden would swoop in and be that white knight. There's so much momentum now behind Trump that bringing somebody in isn't going to do anything. And then they would have to reprint ballots. It would be a complete disaster. So they're going to go all in with Hillary still.
Wow. Well, it is a really wild election cycle. And I'm much more of a theoretician. I'm sort of an abstract philosopher. So for me, I feel this gravity well of the actual gravity of the situation combined with the stakes and the fork in the road, not just for America, but I think for Western civilization as a whole. I think is truly astounding. And I just wanted to remind people, go check out dangerandplay.com. Go follow Mike on Twitter and watch his Periscopes. We'll put all the links to those below. You have a cutting and incisive wit and a courage of 50 piles of lion hearts in your pursuit of these matters. And I always appreciate what you have to say. Thanks so much. I hope you get some sleep soon, because it's been quite a day for everyone. Thanks so much for your time, Mike, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Definitely. See you soon.